My channel is sponsored by HelloFresh, which means we will hear more from them in a couple of minutes. If you had told me years ago, months ago, days ago, that we in 2024 would be in the middle of a giant boob war, I would have thought that that sounded incredible. Giant titties just flailing around for everybody to see. What a dream come true for so many of us. When the reality of the giant boob war is in fact incredibly boring. Today I wanted to talk about a video game called Stellar Blade. I'm so sure that I'm gonna make a bunch of enemies here today. Well, let's do it. Let's do it. I don't care anymore. If you haven't heard of it, Stellar Blade, previously called Project Eve, is an incredible visual experience. Become immersed in a highly detailed post-apocalyptic world that blends beauty and horror to spectacular effect. It's an action-adventure, solid parry mechanics, big post-apocalyptic vibes. It looks like it has been inspired by Nier Automata, which is one of my favorite games ever. I really like Nier Automata. This is my mouse pad. It's got great wrist support. And it stars a character called Eve in third-person combat who is hot. Eve's hot. She's hot. We can all agree she's hot. Based on a Korean model, she's curvy. She has jiggle physics, which, and I mean the kind of jiggle physics where like if somebody breathes, their boobs jiggle, which doesn't happen. Quick aside, everybody, what do you think happens to boobs in space? I've always wondered. In case you aren't familiar with female anatomy, boobs float in pools. I've always wondered what happens to a natural breast in the International Space Station. Like, if you're getting changed up there, do they just, like, sort of, you know? Do they need to have, like, cup size limits on those bad boys? So you're not just sort of, like, smacking people in the face? I don't know. This is what keeps me up at night. I'm just trying to say I'm really disappointed in how the boob wars are turning out. It sucks, actually. But Stellar Blade and Sydney Sweeney alike have been so heavily politicized in a way that I think we've seen slowly escalate since the last election / since The Last Jedi came out. In case you don't remember that happening, there was a discourse that I feel like really came front and center at that period of time, where if you liked The Last Jedi, you were in this political camp. If you disliked The Last Jedi, you were in this political camp. I had a girl accuse me of hating women because I'm not a huge Last Jedi fan, which just, wow, what the fuck are we doing? And where Stellar Blade is concerned, there is a suggestion that this game is a fuck you to the liberals. It is an anti-woke video game. It is perfect, flawless. There is no interesting conversation to be had about it whatsoever. Nothing that we can even talk about. You know, I haven't heard anyone talk about the actual combat. Maybe a couple of people, but really all I'm seeing is people talking about a bunny costume. Because it is in fact at the political forefront of the world that if you dislike this game, you're a dirty liberal. It's so important to know what you think of this game. It is time to talk about HelloFresh. If you somehow haven't already heard of HelloFresh, I'm so sorry, and also you're welcome for what I'm about to tell you. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit delivery service. They can help you out whether you're trying to eat better, which can obviously be very hard. HelloFresh provides you with chef-crafted recipes that come with fresh, delicious ingredients right to your doorstep. You can choose from 30+ calorie smart or protein smart recipes per week, packed with fresh ingredients. Everything will arrive pre-portioned and right at your doorstep for less hassle and more. There are over 45 recipes in total, and even more market items that can support your lifestyle. Like right now, they have this very exciting deal. While your subscription is active, you will get 1 free dessert per box for life. That's restaurant quality meals at home without the price of restaurants, and a decadent sweet treat. So all you actually have to do is choose your recipes and select a delivery date. HelloFresh handles the meal planning and the shopping. You just have to open your box of pre-portioned ingredients and get cooking. And while I do think HelloFresh makes it very fun and easy to cook, if you feel like you don't even have time for that, HelloFresh has thought of that too. HelloFresh has a lineup of quick and easy meals, including 20-minute recipes designed to minimize stress and maximize time spent savoring your supper. Healthy ingredients, don't have to put any thought into it, save you time and save you money. So click the link in the description and use my code Alanah APR10 to receive 10 meals plus free dessert for life while your subscription is active. Now back to the video. I was reading over some subreddits, and there's such an uncomfortable landscape surrounding predisposed notions where this kind of thing is concerned. I saw a bunch of people complaining about the IGN review, which gave this game an 7 out of 10, by the way. It has an 82% on Metacritic. And it was so interesting to watch the discourse leading up to this to see people go, it's going to get bad scores because the journalists hate it, because the journalists hate boobs. And then it didn't get bad scores, and the conversation has flipped to the journalists must be so mad it didn't get bad scores, even though the journalists are the ones that landed at the 80% on Metacritic. The IGN review is being cited as one of the examples of like games journalists bad. because it does criticize Eve. Let me show you what it actually says about Eve as a character. They say it's a predictable tale that sees Eve linking up with the last remnants of human civilization and collecting 4 hypercores guarded by 4 big bosses, each of which comes with new revelations that answer the questions of what happened on the Earth. None of the reveals was surprising. Its characters lack personality, charm, charisma, or anything that might have endeared me towards them in any way. After 30 hours, I can barely tell you anything noteworthy about Eve outside of the fact that she's fiercely dedicated to her mission, she's very close with her fellow 7th Airborne squadmate Taki, and she doesn't like getting wet. Nice. Wait. Not nice. We're never given any sort of insight as to who she really is as a character. She's got no sense of humor, and her interactions with her companions Adam and Lily are incredibly shallow. This is spread across several reviews. The suggestion is that it's difficult to get invested in the story of Stellar Blade, especially when I think it is clearly inspired by Nier Automata, which is like such a goddamn good video game story that when you're going in with that comparison, it makes it even harder for Stellar Blade to exist in a landscape of like any level of mediocrity is going to stand out. So that's the first thing that the IGN review said. Here is the second thing that actually addresses the way Eve looks. There are 30 or so outfits that you can use to change Eve's appearance. There is an impressive variety among these costumes, so for every skimpy swimsuit or super tiny miniskirt, there's also a classy dress or a stylish outfit that makes Eve look like, as my wife put it, an insta-baddie. I always look forward to finding a new skin, and truthfully, it's very satisfying to have another big action game outside of Insomniac's Spider-Man series that features really high-quality, unlockable cosmetics that you don't have to purchase with any real money microtransactions. To be clear, to be expressly clear, this is positive. This is a review that says the story is not very strong and that there isn't a lot of character development for this character, so it's difficult to get on board, but that it also says, I love the costume variety. It does not in any way even criticize the skimpy swimsuits or super tiny miniskirts. It doesn't do that anywhere in the review. But because this game has boobs and thus has become a political stance, anything less than a 10 out of 10 was going to be considered an agenda, right? Basically, we've just hit a point where you can't have an actual conversation about this. People's opinions on this kind of thing are predetermined by the political alignment that they have given to the boobs. People who may not even like this game's combat will pretend to like the game because they want to be in favor of the boobs. They will discount any opinion that criticizes the game as being about the boobs. Like, these people know that the only reason they have any interest in this game that they haven't played is because of political consumerism. If you actually like the game, you'd probably be more open to people criticizing the story and to thinking about the things that are wrong with it, the things that deserve actual criticism. Like, that's what people who are actual fans of things do. There was an article, I think from like IGN France or something, that did say that they found Eve, the way she was sexualized, to be disgusting. In my opinion, that's totally fine. Someone is allowed to say that. If you are allowed to say that you're excited about Eve's boobs, someone is equally allowed to say that they aren't excited about Eve's boobs. In fact, as a human who presumably cares about a functioning society, I would hope that everybody is in favor of multiple different outlets giving multiple different opinions, that all of these things should be able to be discussed. It's something that I always find very frustrating about articles about any kind of entertainment media. If somebody has an opinion that you don't like there's a Kotaku wrote an article, I think it was Kotaku, criticizing FromSoft games for being misogynistic. I read over it on a stream once, and this is an article that I vehemently disagreed with and found to be a little bit silly, but that doesn't mean I don't think it should be written. That doesn't mean I don't think it should be allowed to exist. I think that there should be an article that's criticizing something that makes me, think about how certain people are represented in those particular games, to go alongside the 100,000 articles about how good Elden Ring is. Like, the spectrum is much more appealing to me, even if it includes things that I don't agree with, than having all of my opinion validated all the time, everywhere, and nothing else. But it's like, we just have this necessity to put people in these boxes and get rid of all conversation that could exist outside of those boxes, or all the nuances that make people people. And I just feel like this is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. People are so caught up in the culture war of Stellar Blade's Eve having boobs, and what someone that they don't agree with is saying about that or isn't saying about that, that nobody's even talking about the video game, which, as Mitchell pointed out, I think it's much more important for us to laud the fact that it has a bunch of really cool cosmetics that you don't have to pay for with microtransactions, that are unlockable, that are absolutely readily available to you. That, to me, is a bigger win than anything else in this game, but it's not even really being mentioned outside of a handful of reviews that are otherwise being criticized because they criticized the game that needed to stand on some political high ground. There's also a really weird facet of this that I would be remiss not to point out. The people who are getting upset about the lack of sexualization in women in video games, some of which is happening, some of which I think is exaggerated, right? But I can't help but constantly feel like the people who are complaining about the lack of sexual female characters in AAA video games currently are the same people who have actively tried to bully women who are wearing sexy cosplays out of the video game community. These circles are virtually one-to-one. I am in the camp of, I like a sexy female video game character. I also like a sexy woman. It is so cool to me that women will do sexy cosplays and just share them with me, and that's just a thing that I can see for free on the internet. That is great. I love that. How can anybody dislike that? It doesn't make sense to me. But it's so conflicting where the conversation of boobs is concerned that you're like, gotta have them be hot in video games. But the minute that they're hot in real life, we're really upset with them, and they're whores, and they're exploiting us, and they're trying to steal our money and trying to get simps. They're talentless, they have no skills, they don't deserve to be in my video game community, but how dare you not make them hot in the games? This makes absolutely no sense to me, and it's very difficult to ignore. Genuinely, do you like boobs or not, bro? Just, you have to make the call. Make the call. Either you like them all, or you hate them all, okay? Let me give you a personal example. I wore this as an outfit when I hosted the Game Developers Choice Awards. This is what I wore. I have boobs, they can be seen here. I wanted to wear something I felt nice in, and so I did. And the only criticism I got, none of it was from the left. It was only from people who would align with more conservative values saying, this is why you have your job. You are worth nothing. Go back to the porn sites. Like the same people who were trying to argue that they like boobs were the only kinds of people who criticized me for what I wore. The liberals didn't criticize me at all. It was solely the right-wing conservatives who were very hostile about this particular outfit, which I knew would happen. I don't care, it's fine. It's human nature to like boobs. I'm not criticizing you if you are interested or obsessed with somebody's big boobs. It's totally a thing that I think is normal. I don't even necessarily feel like it's extremely objectifying. If they're there and they're on somebody naturally, it is, I think, pretty goddamn normal for you to notice and enjoy it. But I would also like to see just like a little bit of self-awareness. People have become so obsessed with politicizing opinions or even art forms that don't actually have to be political that their entire opinions are sort of invalidated. Like we don't know what you even think of this game or any of these games. You will support it regardless of its contents or quality because you've assigned a political stance to it based on the fact that it has titties. And any dissenting conversation can completely be thrown in the trash, which goes just hand in hand with this also quite new landscape of if you didn't love something, you hated it. Like a 7 out of 10 means you hated it. It's either a 0 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. There's nothing in between. There's no, I liked it, but, or I didn't like it, but I did like this part. It's just black and white, left or right. Extremely politicized reactions to entertainment media that isn't actually trying to be political, that just makes actual conversations insufferable. And I guess I know the reality is that these people don't really want to have conversations. Like, I get that. They are very defensive of something that they feel is being taken away from them. I get that. But I guess the point is, in either direction, things that people are creating do not actually exist to invalidate your political preferences. No art or entertainment medium has to exist to validate your political preference. And I do think you'll drive yourself insane if that's all you look for in every video game you play.